Welcome to today's video. Today's video, I've been asked by Yorkshire EVs to be in their spotlight questions. So this is a special video just for you members of Yorkshire EVs. I've got the questions here from Yorkshire EVs and what they'd like to know. If you don't know who I am, by the way, I'm Nicolas Raimo, also known as EVnick on YouTube. I make videos on electric vehicles, reviews. What was my first EV? Well, if you haven't watched my YouTube channel, then you won't know. My first EV was a Renault Zoe, Renault Zoe 22 kilowatts. I bought originally for my wife, and she's using it now. She still had that car. That's we've had that three and a half years. No, it's 3 years because the insurance is due next month. So we've had that 3 years. I've now got a BMW i3. I'm looking to sell that and change it for something else. What I'm going to change it for is a toss-up between two cars, and I've not fully decided on that one yet. The reason I went electric was I basically had an underlying sort of concern for the environment and the way things were going, and I didn't want to buy my wife a car that was petrol. And I started watching some very early videos of some YouTubers like James Cook, who's a Tesla YouTuber. He did a couple of videos. Used to watch a few fully charged Roberts videos, and I saw basically that I could get an electric car, but they were just out of my affordability range. And then I saw a little video on a Renault Zoe, and I started to have a look at them. And being in the motor trade, I thought, I wonder if I can get one from some of my disposal networks. So I had a look at some of the networks that I used to buy stock from, and there they were, Renault Zoes, 2 years old, still under manufacturer's warranty, for a steal under battery lease. In fact, the price I paid 3 years ago, I could sell the car today in the motor trade for more than I paid for it. So obviously, electric cars have gone massively up in value since 3 years ago, but that's the main concern for me getting it. Was I wanted to be more environmentally friendly. I would have made the jump sooner, but I didn't think I could afford one. And then when I saw second-hand price Zoes on battery lease, it was just a no-brainer for me to go electric. Why did I choose the electric Renault Zoe? Well, like I just said before, it was the only car that was in my affordability range because of the battery lease. I couldn't afford a battery-owned Nissan Leaf, and to be honest, when the wife sat in it, my wife's short. I mean, I'm short. If you've met me, there's an on-running joke about how short I am, but my wife is actually shorter than me. She couldn't see over the bonnet, and she didn't like that, and she sat in the Renault Zoe, and it wasn't ideal compared to her last car, but I told her that she was going electric no matter what, so it was either the Zoe, it was either she had the Zoe, or we stump up some extra money to try and afford the Leaf. But yeah, that's basically why we bought the Zoe. Was in our price range. Now, the longest EV road trip. Now, this is a sore question at the moment, because in May I was supposed to be doing a John O'Groats to Land's End trip, involving all the local clubs that were going through all their counties, all the way up as support vehicles and helping out and being involved with Octopus electric vehicles. Were also going to help come along on the trip. Unfortunately, because of current situations, I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, COVID-19, that has basically made me want to cancel the trip and postpone it to a later date. So I was going to do John O'Groats to Land's End, and that would have been my longest trip, and I was going to save doing these questions until after that trip. But now, what is my longest trip? Now, my longest trip is probably from where I live in Derbyshire to Frankfurt. That was with Charlie from Octopus EVs. I didn't drive that all myself. I drove that some with Charlie, and Charlie did 90% of the trip. I just did some of the UK trip. And then obviously we came back again. The longest trip I've done personally was Derbyshire to Scotland, and I don't want to name the place in Scotland because I don't want to give away the customer's location. But that was a good trip. That was that was in a hard car. That was in a 22 kilowatt Zoe with 22 kilowatt charging. Sorry, it was in a 22 kilowatt hour Zoe. That's better. Probably made that mistake earlier on before. 22 kilowatt hour Zoe, and it was a 22 kilowatt charging Zoe. Ooh, dream EV road trip. I don't know. Let me think. There's one I wouldn't mind doing, which would be the whole of Route 66 in America in an EV. Now that I imagine would be quite some fun. Ooh, the closest I've been running out to charge, pretty much every single time I deliberately try to run out of charge. I specifically did a video about running out of charge, where my wife got very, very angry with me that I was deliberately trying to run it out just for the purpose of making a video. But then there's a couple of times that I've arrived when I did the Scotland trip, which is also on my channel. I ran out of charge. We almost ran out of charge. I think we got 2 miles as we pulled into the service station. But quite often I've had 2 dashy lines. I've picked up a Nissan Leaf that I was selling once, and it had 6 miles range, and the nearest rapid charger was 9 miles. I had a little turtle on the dash as I rolled up to the charger. So I've never actually, touched some wood here, I've never actually physically ran out yet. But I'm welcome to the idea. Favourite charging network? As many of you know who already drive an EV, and the ones who don't will not know this answer to this question, which is you don't often charge on public networks. You mostly charge at home, and I go on silly journeys all over the country doing videos. But yeah, majority of the time I just charge at home, so I've not really used that many public networks. When I had the Renault Zoe and I was doing longer trips in the 22 kilowatt hour Zoe, I was using a lot of Ecotricity chargers. So Ecotricity were my favourite. They always worked, and as far as I know, they still work perfectly for Renault Zoe owners, and they go on free then when they get no connection. So Ecotricity, weirdly, I know that's going to be a very controversial answer. Instavolt, yeah, Instavolt are great. You just tap a card on it, but the problem is if you've got a Renault Zoe, you can't charge on it. So it would actually have to be Polar, because it has 3 triple heads, can charge all the cars. You've got app, you've got now contactless card reader on it. So Polar's probably going to be my favourite at the moment, and Polar works absolutely fine on CCS on my BMW i3, and it also works perfectly fine at Zoe 43 kilowatts. Now, if I had to improve the charging infrastructure in this country, that's a tricky one. I'd want every single charger to have a contactless card reader, but I also know that that's not exactly easy to do cost-wise if you want to roll out lots of chargers. So I'm quite open to an app-based system that's easy to use, or a central contactless card reader in a car park, bit like you have a parking meter that controls, say, 6 different posts, and you just say, I'm on this post, and you just tap the contactless card reader. Something like that would be great, because I actually don't think we need more rapid chargers. I think we need more slow chargers, and in more correct locations. So we need more of them in shopping centres. We need more of them in supermarkets. We need to fill more of these grazing locations, as I call them. We should graze like cows on a field. We'll stop here. I'm going to stop here for half an hour to do my weekly shop. I'm going to plug my car in for half an hour on a 7 kilowatt charger. That gives me a bit of range. After that, I'm going clothes shopping, and that car park, plug that car, again, a couple of minutes. Oh, I'm going to work, another small charger. And by doing these little stop charges, the majority of the time your car's not moving, it's parked up. So if we have more slow chargers thrown around the country rather than one expensive rapid charger, we can install a lot more slow chargers, and the need for rapid chargers and people hogging them will be less. Therefore, there'll be more available rapid chargers for the people that actually need to rapid charge. Ooh, dream EV. I think it would actually be a Generation 2 Roadster, because I just love it. I can't say the Generation 1 Roadster because I've got a friend who has a Generation 1 Roadster, and he'll have the head the size of a very large watermelon if I tell him that that's my favourite car. But because he's got one, and he'll just wind me up that he's got it. But so I'll say the Generation 2, and then if he gets the Generation 2, I'll change it to something else in the future. As I said previously, my next EV is something that I don't want to decide on yet. I'm stuck between 2 cars. I'm actually stuck between 3 cars, 2 makes, and 3 cars. So two models off the same company. But you could probably guess which company that might be. and then another car that's off a manufacturer that's only just started making EVs, but makes something that I'm quite interested in. I have covered it on a video review, so you could probably work it out on my channel on how excited I was seeing it. I've not driven this car as of yet though. Thank you very much to Yorkshire EVs for inviting me to do this spotlight. It's been a pleasure to be invited. I hope if you've enjoyed watching my answers to this questions that you'll go and check out my YouTube channel. If you just go onto YouTube, type EV, letter E, letter V, Nick, you'll find me straight away. And there's plenty of information there on all different cars. I also try and do, as well as reviews and as well as general EV stuff, I also try and do tips on particular models that I own. So there's plenty of tips on the Renault Zoe. There's plenty of tips that you might not know about on the BMW i3.